Alright, what is going on, guys? I am TJ, bringing you a brand new video on my channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 2018 playoffs. Technically, I know it's 2019. Happy New Year's to you guys. You're probably going to see this video a couple days after New Year's, but I was hanging out with family, hanging out with friends, doing all that good stuff, and so I didn't really feel like, posting a video around, the New Year or anything like that. I mean, still, technically, it is kind of around the New Year, but it wasn't on like New Year's Eve or New Year's Day or anything like that. But Happy New Year's to you guys. I hope that you, made some good resolutions, and I hope you follow through with them, because a lot of people give up on them. And some of my resolutions are probably going to be, or not probably going to be, they are to get back into the gym, be healthier, and to make more content for you guys. I really want to strive to do that because there are a lot of people who like my content, whether you're subscribed or not. My mock draft did really good, and I appreciate all the support on that and on all my other videos. But I want to try and get my name out there, grow my name, grow my kind of channel, because there's not a lot of people who do stuff like me on the internet. There are people who talk about football and stuff like that, but there's not a lot of people in like my kind of content group. I'm not saying that like I run the content group or anything like that, but nevertheless, minus the rant, today we're going to be talking about the 2018 NFL playoffs, and pretty much these are just going to be my predictions for every round with a little bit of analysis. Starting off in the AFC, we're going to be looking at the wildcard weekends first. Obviously, I cannot wait for this weekend to watch all these great games. Hopefully they're great. Hopefully none of them are blowouts or anything like that. But the first game we're going to be taking a look at is the Colts and the Texans, aka the AFC South Bowl. There always seems to be an AFC South team in the wildcard round. Last year, the Titans played the Chiefs in a game that I don't really want to talk about, and a couple years ago we played the Texans in the first round. So there always seemed an AFC South team, ever since Peyton Manning has left the Colts, an AFC South team has never really seemed to get a first round bye, and so they're continuing the trend this year with two AFC South teams both in the wildcard weekend. Looking at this game, the winner of this game plays the Chiefs, and for my sake, I would really rather play the Texans. They've got a few more weaknesses, but with being realistic and being unbiased and stuff like that, I am going to pick the Colts to win this game. Andrew Luck is playing, the second best at his position. Patty Mahomes is playing out of his mind. He's had a top 5 quarterbacking season in the history of the NFL, but Andrew Luck is playing a close second quarterback in the NFL. He's playing just as good as Patty has over the last, 6 or 7 games. The offensive line has played really well. They've given up the least amount of sacks in the NFL this season with 18, I believe. And then I think there was a stat that came out a couple days ago with sacks credited to the offensive line. So pretty much just like some dude just gets absolutely beat, or the pressure finally gets to the quarterback. I think the Colts may have only had like 10 or like 8 total sacks given up by the offensive line the entire season, which is an amazing stat. They hadn't given up a sack for like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, Ryan Kelly are all very good young pieces on that offensive line, and I really liked what the Colts did in going after young offensive linemen to build around Andrew Luck, because a few years ago, and even, well, not last year, he didn't play last year, but a few years ago, he was just getting absolutely killed. That's good that they decided to, build around Andrew Luck with getting him some help on the offensive line. And talking about their defense, they haven't given up a single 100-yard rusher the entire season, which is also insane. Their D-backs are playing very good, and even though they're young and kind of inexperienced, but their one dude who has good playoff experience on that team is going to be T.Y. Hilton and Andrew Luck. 2 veterans on the team, 2 veterans in the league are going to be guys that carry this team. The Texans secondary isn't all that good. I do really like Justin Reed and Tyrann Mathieu at the safety position, but their corners aren't really that good. The difference is going to be in the trenches, and that's where you win playoff games, is in the trenches. The story of this game is going to be the Colts offensive line versus the Texans defensive line. If the Texans defensive line can get pressure, which they've got stars all over the place. They got DJ Reader. I can't remember who their nose tackle is, but they've obviously got JJ Watt, who's a generational talent, Jadeveon Clowney, who's arguably a generational talent, Whitney Merciless, and that's just on the front 7, and then or just on the defensive line. And then the linebackers, they've got guys Bernard McKinney, Zach Cunningham, Dylan Cole, guys that can make plays all across the field. But if I were going to pick with a team, or I already said my pick was going to be the Colts. They're going to be advancing to the next round to play the Chiefs in the first round, or not in the first round, but the Chiefs' first round game is going to be the divisional for the Colts. They make it there, they win. I'm going to stop talking about them. Moving on to the next game, we have a rematch of a pretty intense game that I think that was week 16, that took place in week 16. It might have been 15. Was it? I can't remember. I'm just going to say week 16. If I'm wrong, you can roast me in the comments. It is going to be the Ravens versus the Chargers. Both of these teams are very dangerous. The Chargers beat the Chiefs on a 2-point conversion after the Chiefs offense totally sputtered in the second half and they only scored like once. And then a Ravens defense who has looked absolutely insane this entire season. They gave the Chiefs a run for their money, even though the Chiefs did end up winning that game 26. What was it? It was like 20. I can't remember the exact score of that game. I'm not even going to try and guess. But the Ravens defense, the Ravens are like going back in time and making football, you know, what old head football fans like new age people like in their 30s and 20s, and young football fans really like what Patrick Mahomes is doing, really like what Andrew Luck's doing, what Deshaun Watson's doing, what Sean McVay is doing in Los Angeles with Jared Goff and Todd Gurley. Really West Coast zone style spread offenses with a lot of screens, a lot of jet sweeps, all that type of stuff. That's what young football fans like. Old football fans, they like that ground and pound that the Ravens and the Seahawks seem to be doing, and the Seahawks are going to be a team we talk about when we go to the NFC. But they are reinventing football. Lamar Jackson has played great. I think he's 6-1 as a starter, or 5-1 as a starter since he's taken over. He's played absolutely great, not by the numbers, but in terms of doing what he needs to do to get them wins. He's played great. He had a good game against this Chargers defense just a few weeks ago, and to me, if I were going to pick a team in this game, it would be the Ravens. Their defense is stifling. They already stopped this Chargers team once, so you could go and like bet safe. If you were going to bet safe, you'd probably say the Ravens do it again. But if you're going to go riskier, you could say that the Chargers have figured out the Ravens defense, which nobody seems to have figured out this entire season. There's the teams that have beat them, but it's not like they've gotten absolutely blown out or anything like that. They've lost close games all year, and they had another close game against the Browns, but their defense showed up late in the games, and that is what playoff football is about. Can your defense make a stop, get you the ball back? Can your defense make turnovers? Can your defense make plays? And the Ravens defense can do that. I'm not discrediting the Chargers or anything like that. I just have a lot of faith in the Ravens. So that is going to be the matchup that is going to be who I pick. The Ravens are going to move on to the divisional round and play the New England Patriots after their bye in the first week. All right, moving on to the divisional round of the AFC, I have the Chiefs versus the Colts. Now, the one thing that worries me about this, and that it worries me going into every single Chiefs game, or just like as a Chiefs fan, I know that the defense is terrible, and I don't try to sugarcoat it or anything like that. Me and my friend actually got a Fire Bob Sutton petition started on, I can't remember what website that is that like you can start a petition on. It's like Go Fire or something like that. But he put out a petition, and I think out of like 100, I think it like maxed out its signatures in like a couple hours or something like that. But obviously Bob Sutton isn't going to get fired, even though I wish he would, but he can't get fired. They're not going to fire him. But going into this game, I'm really worried because Andrew Luck is playing, just as good as any other quarterback in the NFL right now, and our secondary is awful. The one thing that our defense can do is get after the passer, and the one thing that their offensive line can do is protect the passer. They've given up the least amount of sacks in the NFL. The Chiefs have given up top 5 sacks, so like we are 5th in the least amount of sacks given up. I think it's only like 28 that we've given up all season. So that's going to be the difference in this game, just like their first game against the Texans. The difference is going to be, can Chris Jones, can Allen Bailey, can Dee Ford, can Breland Speaks, can Justin Houston get after Andrew Luck, and that's going to be the difference in this game. We have nobody that can stop T.Y. Hilton one-on-one. Our only hope is that maybe that they run T.Y. Hilton out of the slot a lot, so Kendall Fuller ends up with him one-on-one. I really don't want Orlando Scandrick or Steven Nelson on an island with T.Y. Hill, at least if you're a Chiefs fan. If you're a Colts fan, that's what you want. You want T.Y. Hilton on the outside, matched up in one-on-ones against those players, because the Chiefs run a lot of man defense, and they're going to blitz a lot. They don't really run any combo coverages. It's going to be a lot of man too high. So you're going to look to get T.Y. Hilton in ISO situations, one-on-one situations against bad corners, and Eric Ebron is a very, very good weapon as well. But I will say that even though the Colts defense has played a good style of defense this entire season, nobody's been able to stop Patrick Mahomes all year. We've scored like 35, I think it's like 35.5 points a game this season, 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, a limited number of interceptions. There are so many weapons on the Chiefs offense that you have to account for. You got to account for Tyreek Hill, you got to account for Travis Kelce, you got to account for the running backs, and now for all of it, for some reason you have to account for Demarcus Robinson, who has taken over for Sammy Watkins and his injury. And Demarcus Robinson's played really, really good. I think it was a 4th or 5th round draft pick a couple years ago, the same draft that we took Tyreek Hill in. I mean, we've taken Chris Jones, Tyreek Hill, and Demarcus Robinson all in one draft. That is great. I think that's when we took Tyreek Hill. I could be misspeaking, but if that's all in one draft, that's insane. That's turned out to be one of the most productive drafts in recent memory or anything like that. So with all that being said, I am going to take the Chiefs. Moving on to the championship round. Moving on to the other side of the divisional matchups, it is going to be the Ravens versus the Patriots, obviously in Foxborough. And for this game, I'm gonna have to go with, I mean, this is hard, man. This is really hard, but I'm gonna go with the Ravens. The Ravens, I just believe that defense wins championships, and even if you have adequate quarterback play, if your defense can ball out, then you're gonna win the games. We've seen it with Ravens defenses in the past. Back when they won the Super Bowl, when Joe Flacco was their quarterback, their defense was really, really good. Now, granted, it was an aging Ray Lewis and an aging Ed Reed, but they had guys like Elvis. I think Elvis Dumervil was on that team. They had a young Jimmy Smith. Who else was on that team? Oh, there were some good. Haloti Ngata was on that team. T. Sizzle was on that team. I think Courtney Upshaw was on that team. I know C.J. Mosley wasn't, but their offense wasn't really all that good, and it kind of resembles what the Ravens offense is now, except for there is a much more of a running threat with their quarterback than there ever was with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco wasn't going to run the ball. And even going back to when Trent Dilfer played for the Ravens, they had a really good defense then too. They were like, that was like prime Ray Lewis, prime Ed Reed. I think Rod Woodson might have been on that team too when they won the Super Bowl. So I mean, they were a very, very good defense, and that's just been a staple for them. But the Patriots in the playoffs, even though they haven't played up to a lot of people's Patriot expectations, they still are the 2 seed. They still got a first round bye, and that's just mainly due to a lot of middle of the pack teams in the AFC. But still, this game's going to be at Foxborough. The Patriots and Ravens always play a really, really, really good football game. This is going to be better than the Colts Chiefs game. This is probably going to be a top 2 game in the playoffs to watch, because the Ravens and Patriots always play each other really, really close, and I think that the Ravens are going to edge out the Patriots, mainly because the Patriots there's not anything that stands out on paper. Their defense isn't shut down. They don't have a super explosive offense, and I feel like the fact that the Ravens have such a shutdown defense, they're going to be able to limit Tom Brady because he's aging. He isn't making the throws that he's used to making. Gronk isn't playing good. He doesn't have Josh Gordon anymore. The weapons are limited, and they're pretty much just going to have to rely on the run game. And against a Ravens front seven that's absolutely loaded, I don't see how there's any possibility. Well, I'd see how there is a possibility, but if you're going to try and lean on the run game, if you are the Patriots, it's going to be a tough task. It's going to be a long, long day. With that being said, the championship round in the AFC is the Ravens versus the Chiefs. Okay, moving on to the championship round is going to be the Ravens versus the Chiefs, like I just said, and this game is going to be a super hard game. We've already seen these teams match up in the regular season. It was a toe-to-toe, wire-to-wire game. The running game from not only Lamar Jackson, but Gus Edwards and, who's their other running back? Kenneth Dixon, I think, was healthy for that game, so they played him a little bit, but that running attack really was what kind of ate away at the Chiefs. The Chiefs defense, the only thing they can do is get after the passer. They're very terrible in the pass game in terms of giving up yards and allowing touchdowns and yards and stuff like that, and they're not that great in the run game either. But I don't feel like the Ravens offense is explosive enough to capitalize on how terrible the Chiefs defense is. They've got a very good offensive line. The Ravens do. They've got a very good offensive line. Their run game, if they can drain clock and score 2, 3, maybe even 4 touchdowns in this game, then I'd see that there's a way that they could limit the explosiveness of Patrick Mahomes. But we saw what Patrick Mahomes did in that game at Arrowhead against the Ravens just 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was insane. He was making, the no-look pass has kind of been like, it's taken over Twitter and, NFL Twitter and stuff like that. But he had some more insane plays running across the field, throwing sidearmed across his body on 4th and 9 to Tyreek Hill to pick up that huge gain. And then he converted another 4th and 9 so that they could then score a touchdown and take the lead. It's just insane. And I know that this Ravens defense is good, but I don't know if they're stop the Chiefs good. The Chiefs will get into a shootout with anybody, and I don't think that the Ravens are going to have enough on the defensive side of the on the offensive side of the ball rather to compete in a shootout. I don't think that Lamar Jackson has matured enough as a passer to go out and win a 40-42 game. I think that if the Ravens want to win this game, it's going to have to be in the 20s. They're going to have to score like 26, 27 points and hold the Chiefs to 21, which nobody has done all season. Nobody's held the Chiefs to under 26 points. Patty Mahomes is the first quarterback in NFL history to lead his team to every game they scored more than 26 points. With that being said, I am going to have to take the Chiefs. That's not my bias. A lot of people have the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl in their brackets, and this isn't like March Madness or anything, but in their playoff prediction, they have the Chiefs winning the AFC and going to the Super Bowl. It's not all that far-fetched. They are the number 1 seed. I don't think they are by far the best team in the AFC, but they are definitely the most explosive offense. And I feel like in the new age in the NFL, although defense does win championships, I know I said that, and that's probably the most important part of a team, I feel like with how explosive the Chiefs offense is, they can get it done against a very good Ravens defense, and they will be my pick coming out of the AFC heading to the Super Bowl. Moving over to the NFC and looking at the matchups for wildcard weekend on that side, on that conference in the NFL, we have the Seahawks versus the Cowboys and the Bears versus the Eagles. Starting off with the Cowboys versus the Seahawks. This is a game of two teams who are very, very similar. Teams who like to run the ball, they like to run power style offenses, drain the clock, and the only thing that's really super different about these teams is the quarterback play. Russell Wilson, to me, is arguably a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I might put him up there probably at number 5, above a couple other guys who maybe you could argue it. Some people would put him out of the top 10. Some people would put him in the top 5, in the top 10. Doesn't matter, but he's still a very, very good quarterback. And then Dak Prescott, who has really yet to prove himself. He's played some pretty good regular season ball, but a lot of the criticisms about him are that he has to lean on the run game too much because he can't make too many plays with his arm, and he isn't, a vertical stretch the field type quarterback like guys like, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck are. So, and the running games for both of these teams are very, very good. The Seahawks lead the NFL in rushing yards per game, and they kind of reinvented themselves through the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. They were really, really struggling, and they just turned they were like, you know what, we're gonna just start running the football a lot, and it's really paid off. Even though they took a running back in the first round in the 2018 NFL draft, in the 2017 NFL draft, they took Chris Carson late. I think he was a 6th or 7th round pick, and I liked him a lot. I really liked him in last season. I really thought, this is a guy that they can move forward with, and that was a very, very big piece because they drafted him super late. They didn't spend a lot on him. They're not paying him very much, but then they decided to go out and draft Rashad Penny, who I thought was a super, that was probably the biggest reach maybe of the entire NFL draft, and Chris Carson's turned out to be the bell cow for them. He's a 1,000-yard rusher, probably the most effective running back that they've had since Marshawn Lynch. I'd go with that. He's probably been their most effective running back since Marshawn Lynch, and their offensive line, despite not being the most talented, is a very effective offensive line, and I think that'll be able to get the job done for them, and I think they're going to win. That's going to be my pick. I think the Seahawks win. I'm not going to hesitate with that. That's just my gut feeling. They've had some pretty crazy wildcard weekends. If you remember, a long time ago, Marshawn Lynch having that beastquake moment against, I think it might have been the defending champion New Orleans Saints, going in and just having that insane run against the Saints. And they're a team that's, been a pretty competitive team over the last few years. The Cowboys have had a history of struggling in the playoffs, not in the Jerry Jones era, but in the modern Jerry Jones era. They haven't really been successful, and they weren't successful in the playoffs with Tony Romo. Last time they were really good in the playoffs was when they had Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Larry Allen, Roy Williams, all those guys. And I think the Seahawks are going to be able to get it done. This is a weekend of upsets for me, apparently. I'm picking a lot of the lower seeds to win these games, especially on wildcard weekend, but I just feel like with Dak's ineptitude, even though he showed it last week against, a pretty shaky defense. Who did they play last week? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on who they just played. It was a week ago. Who did I'm so bad. I'm so bad. But he hasn't really been all that great throughout the season. He's shown flashes, but then he's also shown games where he can't complete, a ball 20 yards downfield. So I think it'll be an interesting game. I think it'll be a competitive game, but I do have the Seahawks coming out on top. Moving over to the other wildcard game, it is the Bears versus the Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby. I don't know how they managed to do it, but they are back in the playoffs. They looked like they were going to have possibly a top 10, maybe even top 12 pick in this year's NFL draft, and they totally turned their season around, making the playoffs and not suffering from the Super Bowl hangover. So for the first time in a while, we see both of the teams. Actually, no, because when the Patriots and the when the Patriots and the Falcons played, the Falcons were in the Super Bowl for the next year. But, sometimes there's a Super Bowl hangover, and it looked like that the Eagles were having a pretty bad hangover early in the season, but Carson Wentz goes down. Nick Foles somehow, with his absolute magic, comes in, turns the season around. He's a little bit banged up, and I think that's a big contributor going into this game, and that's why I'm going to take the Chicago Bears. To me, they're probably the best defense in the NFL. They got guys like Khalil Mack, Leonard Floyd, Roquan Smith. I don't know why I'm stuttering with these last names, but they got guys like Danny Trevathan, Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman, Eddie Jackson, Adrian Amos, Bryce Callahan's played really well. Kyle Fuller has played amazing, and they are just, to me, the most talented defense in the NFL. The thing with the Bears is just going to be experience and quarterback play. They've got a good defense and they've got a good run game, which are two really important things that you look for in a team that is going to make a run to the Super Bowl. But they have a very inexperienced quarterback, a guy who's inexperienced at head coach, but I just think that the defense is going to be enough to propel this team past the Eagles. The Eagles are a team that they've won tight games. They haven't really necessarily blown anybody out, at least any competitive teams out, since about, I think when they beat the Rams, they beat them like 31-13. So, but that kind of looked like a fluke game for the Rams. Like, that was probably their one big stain on their season, was having that pretty bad loss to the Eagles. But with that being said, I am still going to take the Bears in this matchup, and it is going to be the Rams and the Bears on the one side of the bracket, and on the other side, it is going to be the Seahawks versus the Saints. Moving on to the divisional round of the playoffs, it is starting off with the first matchup is going to be the Seahawks versus the Saints. I just mentioned it when I was talking about the Seahawks-Cowboys matchup, about the Beastquake run. I don't necessarily think that the Saints are going to have all that much trouble with Seattle's offense. Seattle's offense has the capability to be explosive at times, but I believe that the Saints are the best team in the NFL. I wouldn't say by far. I'd say that the Chiefs and Rams are pretty close behind. They are probably the most well-rounded team in the NFL. They've got a great defense that can perform. They can cause turnovers. They can make stops. They're clutch. We saw that in the game against the Steelers. We've seen them shut down teams in the Cowboys game. They only gave up 10 points, but their offense was absolutely shut down. They've been a great defense all year long, and their offense is top tier in the NFL. They got guys like Kamara, Breeze, Michael Thomas. Ted Ginn has been pretty explosive for them lately. They've got a very good team overall. I think the one thing that they're probably missing is probably a tight end. I think that'd probably round out their team. Their safety play has been a little bit questionable, but at times it's been a little bit questionable, but it's been solid overall. And I don't think the Seattle offense necessarily has the capability to they do have the capability to go out there and put up a lot of points and compete with the team, because although their mantra is run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, Russell Wilson can get into a rhythm just like that, drop back 30-40 times a game and sling the ball around when they're down, a couple scores, and try and get his team back in the game. But with that being said, I just think the Saints are overall the better team, and I'm going to go with them in this matchup. They're probably a lot of people's favorite to win the Super Bowl. I'd say that they would be mine. I'm a hometown guy. I'm a Chiefs fan, but I feel like the Saints are not easily, I just talked about this, but I feel like they are the best team in the NFL. The Seahawks aren't going to give them all that much trouble. It might end up being a close game, but I still feel like the Saints are going to come out with the win. Moving on to the other divisional round game in the NFC, it is going to be the Rams versus the Bears. And in this game, I'm going to take the Chicago Bears. That may be a little bit of surprise to people, but if you guys saw that game a few weeks ago, I can't remember what weeks. I'm bad with memory. I mean, my memory is good, but I just can't remember like what team played what week and the score and like all that stuff. But I think the score of that game was like 15-6. Mitch Trubisky didn't play all that well of a game, but the defense was absolutely dominant, and the Rams weren't sitting anybody. Nobody was injured really. They were a full healthy team. Todd Gurley was playing. Obviously besides the Cooper Kupp injury, but Todd Gurley was playing, Brandon Cooks was playing, Robert Woods was playing, Goff was playing. Everybody that was healthy, that has been healthy for a majority of the season, was playing for the Rams, and the Bears made them look awful. They made Sean McVay look pretty bad. They made the offense look bad. The Bears defense was absolutely insane. Khalil Mack has been worth way more than 2 first round. I wouldn't say worth way more than 2 round picks. That's a tongue twister right there. But I feel like the Bears giving up 2 picks for him have definitely benefited them in the long run, and to me, they are a Super Bowl contender. The Rams have a very explosive offense, but their defense isn't all that great. They've got a lot of names. They've got Sue, Donald, who's their middle linebacker? Mark Barron. In the secondary, they've got John Johnson, LaMarcus Joyner, Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters. On the outside, they got Devontae Fowler. They've got names, but they can't seem to piece those names together and make them play as a cohesive unit. Aaron Donald is the most dominant player in the NFL, and I feel like he's probably going to be the key factor in this game. If he can get like 2 or 3 sacks, cause a lot of pressures, I feel like the Rams have a very, very good chance to win this game. But if the Bears start doubling him, chipping him, doing everything they can to slow him down, then I feel like it'll be a little bit easier. But Mitch Trubisky has to literally play the game of his life. He's going to have to play 3, probably maybe 4. He might have to play 2 to 3 games of his life in this playoff stretch to get his team to the Super Bowl. And in this game, I think he does so I don't think he has like a game of his life, but I feel like he has a very, very good game against this Rams defense, who gives up a lot of passing yards, who isn't all that solid on defense. We saw Patty Mahomes expose them earlier in the season, and he already knows what their defense is like. This is going to be a rematch game, and I feel like the Bears are going to come out on top again. Moving on to the NFC Championship game, we have the Bears versus the Saints. In this matchup, I am going to take the Chicago Bears. Yes, I said it. Maybe an unpopular take. It may be kind of, oh, is he seriously doing this? Like, oh, he's so stupid. Why isn't it not the Rams? Why is it not the Saints? Why is it not the Cowboys? I feel like the Bears have by far the best defense in the NFL. They've got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of playmakers. They can stop the run. They can stop the pass. They can come out in any formation and still have their best players on the field with not taking guys on and off. They can leave their best players out on the field, and I feel like they have the capability and the players and the scheme and the coaching to stop the Saints offense. When we saw the Saints offense struggle against the Cowboys, it was because they were sending a lot of pressure and they were playing down on the Saints offense. They were pressing a lot. There was a lot of guys in the box. Drew Brees couldn't make the throws that we've been used to see him making, and I feel like with the Bears, they've got two really good safeties who can come down, play man and zone, play in the box, outside of the box. They've got two great cover linebackers who can also stop the run. Khalil Mack is an insane pass rusher. Leonard Floyd and Akeem Hicks on that defensive line as well. I just feel like the Bears defense is going to do it for him. With Mitch Trubisky, I just said it, he's going to have the game of his life to beat the Rams, or maybe close to that. He's going to have another very, very good game against his Saints defense if he wants to win. They've got guys like Marshawn Lattimore, Cam Jordan, Sheldon Rankins. Demario Davis has been playing very good. Who's that other guy? Alex Anzalone's been playing pretty good. To me, it's going to come down to Mitch Trubisky, because the run game is solid. We know that they got Jordan Howard and they've got Tariq Cohen, a team. They run the ball very, very effectively. It's going to come down to, can Mitch Trubisky connect with Trey Burton, connect with Taylor Gabriel, and connect with Allen Robinson, especially Allen Robinson on deep shots. You know, he's probably going to be guarded by Marshawn Lattimore, maybe bracketed the entire game by PJ Williams or another safety, but it's going to come down on the shoulders of Mitch Trubisky. The defense is going to create some turnovers. The defense is going to stop the Saints offense. They're going to set them up in like good field position, 50-yard lines, putting them back in their deep in their territory, make them turn the ball over, and it's going to come down to, can Mitch Trubisky perform under pressure? He's got to do what Matt Nagy tells him to do. He's got to perform within the system. He can't get wild. I mean, he can, but he can't just try and make every play. He has to know the right plays to make, and if that all goes right, then I feel like the Bears will win. The Saints, I don't think it'll take a ton. Like, this is going to be a very, very good game, but I don't think it's going to take, Drew Brees having an insane game. They just have to run their offense, not make any mistakes, not turn the ball over, protect the ball, and run the ball, because they haven't been all that great running the football. Their mantra is, screen passes, dump offs, stuff like that, and then we'll take deep shots down the field. They set you up with dink and dunks and runs here and there, but then they try and launch it over top to Tegan and Michael Thomas on shot plays, or, just deep routes, trying to get those guys open down the field. If they can control their time of possession and not turn the ball over, then I feel like they can win the game. But with how dominant and turnover, I don't know what the word is, but the Bears defense is a go after it, get the ball type of defense. If they can cause 2 or 3 turnovers, I think the game will be over for the Saints and the Bears will head to the Super Bowl. And so here we are at the Super Bowl, and by the picks that I've made, it has ended up being the Bears versus the Chiefs, a Super Bowl that may end up happening in real life, but I know a lot of people are mainly picking like the Patriots, the Chargers, and then the Saints and Rams on the other side. But I do feel like both of these teams have a very good and realistic shot to winning all their games and getting to the Super Bowl. And I don't really know who I want to pick for this, because it's really hard. It's like, because I want to be unbiased and I want to keep my opinions away from my fandom and what teams I support, what players I support, and stuff like that. But on the other hand, the team I support and the players I support have a really good and strong case to be named the Super Bowl champions. But with all that being said, I'm gonna have to go with the Chicago Bears. I just feel like their style of play, how their team is set up, the way that they run their offense, the way that they play defense is just I think it's going to be the toughest challenge that the Chiefs have faced all year. To me, the Bears are just a tier above what the Ravens are. The Ravens and the Bears, to me, are very similar teams, on very similar schemes, very aggressive, very active on defense, but the Bears just take it to another level, and they are just more aggressive. They've got better talent, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, more weapons, a more dynamic offense than the Ravens. But the Chiefs could easily win this game. They've got the best offense in the league, in my opinion, but the worst defense. So with that being said, you have to pick and choose. Like the Bears, they have an elite defense, but their offense isn't great. The Chiefs have an elite offense, and their defense is terrible. So these games, I don't know what it would come down to, because I think this game would be probably a shootout, just like every other game that the Chiefs are ever involved in. But I think the Bears will be able to slow down the Chiefs offense in this game. if it does happen, but we're like hypotheticals right now, you know, because these are my predictions. But I do think that the Bears defense will be able to slow down the Chiefs offense, something that no team has done yet this entire season. But I feel like the Bears have the players, the athleticism, the scheme to slow down the Chiefs offense. And so with that being said, I am crowning the Bears my 2018-19 Super Bowl champion, even though my hometown boys, the Chiefs, are playing in it. Alright, that's going to do it for me, guys. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. There's going to be a lot more content coming out, mainly because I'm home for winter break and all that good stuff. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the NFL, like the coaching carousel. The Steelers are having their own problems, so I want to really address that stuff. And then mock drafts. It's mock draft season officially. A lot of people are posting their mock drafts. And I think I might wait a little bit. I might wait till after wildcard weekend to make mine. But with that being said, I am TJ, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.